Yeah.
Yeah. So, so how long have you been a Muslim?
Since 2007, which is 16 years maybe.
Okay. And so when you were a Christian, were you born in the church?
Yeah, I was Catholic church. I don't know if you consider that a church.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's still, you read the Bible, so it's got the same. It's got books that we read in it as well. So even if someone is from a Catholic church, at least they can still read what's in the Bible.
Yeah.
And they might not necessarily have to agree with everything that the.
Yeah, I was very young.
Yeah.
I was very young.
So when you were in, so I know one thing about Catholic churches, which is different from like the Pentecostal ones, is that they're very formal and like you have very specific rituals.
Yeah.
And
I remember doing them as well.
Yeah. And those rituals, they like have, I suppose it's similar to Islam, but a lot of them you had like dates for some of the, like, I don't know what you call it, festivals or something.
I know we eat bread and drink the wine of Jesus.
Yeah, but
I just did Holy Communion, so I was just able to eat the bread.
All right, but you weren't really into it because like when I speak to the Catholic preacher here, and I've looked these ones up as well. There's a lot of feasts there's a lot of events they have during the year which Catholics are supposed to attend.
Yeah.
But was it that your family weren't really into all of those?
So I think from the age of like 6 or something like that, 7.
Yeah.
To like about the age of like 14, I was like in a Catholic church.
Yeah.
Like every Sunday we'd go to church and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's like obviously like this reality as a Muslim, as a African, that you have the Catholic Church as in like the state church.
Yeah.
But then there was also like an element of going to African churches.
Oh, okay. Oh, so what country was that?
Germany.
Oh, you're in Germany.
Yeah, I grew up there. Right. So you'd go to like the formal white church.
Yeah.
And then you also have the ability to go to like the church that was organized by the African immigrants. Oh. So I've experienced a bit of both.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, I wouldn't say I grew up in a church like that, but I spent a considerable amount of time in the church.
Yeah.
So the church was important to me. I also associated like importance to it because of my parents.
Yeah.
Telling me, look, this is important.
Yeah.
Catholic church was very boring, but I was young. I was too young, so it wasn't really exciting for me. The whole Holy Communion thing was quite exciting because we were you had to learn. You had to go to classes before you took the Holy Communion.
Right.
And the Lord's Prayer and stuff like that. You learned that stuff.
Yeah.
What is very interesting, intellectually, I was, and this, there's literally no leeway here. The Jehovah Witnesses.
Yeah.
I know they're not really like any of the other Christians, but my mum was flirting with the idea of being a Jehovah Witness. She never was formally one, but she spent a lot of time with them, and through them I got sort of like a bit of an education, which was very similar to like Islam eventually.
All right, but did they? Is it because they came to the door?
Yeah.
And she spoke to them?
Yeah, they're very helpful, very, there was a beautiful community around they're very caring of my mom at a particular time.
Yeah.
So we would go Catholic church, but then sometimes, I don't know how, like towards the end of my Christianity, I was sort of like more with Jehovah Witnesses.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so, because that's interesting, so what you're saying, because this is what I believe as well, that it's the way that people are has more of an effect on people than the physical doctrine itself.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying is that because you saw how those Jehovah's Witnesses were, that's the thing that they draw you to the...
So not me personally, my mum.
All right.
However, I got to learn a lot from them, especially about the Bible. I got to learn about the prophets, Abraham, Jacob. They had this like yellow book. It's like a yellow book and it has all the stories in there.
Right.
And I was always fascinated by the artwork, And I went through the entire book. I think that was the first ever book, religious book that I've read cover to cover.
Right. Because about how old were you then?
I'd say 12,
Right.
13.
Yeah, so that's an age where you're impressionable. So
Yeah, 13 years old, yeah.
Because I remember when I was that sort of age, that's when I would like
of course.
stay whole day reading books.
Yeah, you believe and you do the things that your parents tell you to do.
Yeah.
That's the reality behind this.
Yeah. So, but you said that it was since 2007, and so was it you who went to Islam, or was it a family member?
It was me. I was a teenager, you know, and I was starting to meet people outside my immediate circle, you know, and a lot of very, very good friends of mine, they all happened to be Muslims. And I was fascinated by their dedication, because when I was comparing other people who had Holy Communion with me, after the Holy Communion,
they just go and I know that is a problem in the church, and I've tried to tell people about it, but they mostly just ignore what I'm saying.
Yeah, so it was like a lot of the teenagers weren't really involved in religion per se. It was very cool to be, at least with the friends that I was, to be Christian.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they weren't you couldn't see Christianity necessarily in their life. It was like, we're gonna go to the church on Sunday, and
it's a nightclub on Saturday.
I don't know, it's just weird.
And they go to the pub as well and drink? I know.
No.
Oh, they didn't?
That's this thing called Kneipe, which is like the equivalent of a pub. But it's not really as popular as... It's more the delinquent working class. You won't find like a pub in an upscale place. You wouldn't really. It's, the culture isn't.
Yeah, I know. Because I've even seen it. I've been to some areas in London.
Yeah.
And I noticed that they're actually closing the pubs down.
Yeah.
But there's another place I could see where they got this pub, and I hear the people sometimes a bit loud in there. I noticed they haven't closed that one.
Yeah.
So it's as if the people are more into that pub, then they keep it open. But then any pub which is quiet and they notice it's a bit empty, I notice those ones seem to
absolutely. So the Muslims when I grew up, the Muslims were the only people that were very, very protective about their religion.
Yeah.
So they were very protective about their religion. So and I admired that at a young age. I was like, wow, be above 14 years old, it's very hot. Why don't you just eat? My friend was fasting.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I can't. Wow. Well, that level of zeal, you know, it was very remarkable. So that was my first sort of like encountering with that.
Because actually, I was just wondering, so this friend, this is a friend from school?
Yeah, from school, yeah. Okay. Like from the neighborhood.
But you knew him from school, or?
Nah, he was just in the neighborhood. He lived in the neighborhood.
Oh, so is it because he was kind of a friendly-ish kind of guy? Why?
Yeah, we used to chill. We used to like spend time together.
Right.
And then naturally, he learned stuff about me, and I learned stuff about him. And then I remember this very vividly. This was like one Ramadan, and he was fasting. I was like, "Yo, why are you fasting? Like, it doesn't make sense. Why are you fasting? You know?" And he did it. He was very adamant about it. And then I remember, I think even the same summer, I was talking to another friend of mine about religion. And then he starts telling me about the prophets, which I had just learned about a year or so prior to that.
Booking.
Yeah. So I was familiar with the names. I was like, what? We have the same prophets? I didn't know that. So that was like the first time it conceptualized in my mind that, that's what Islam is kind of about. But I didn't think too much about it. I was still like, I'm a Christian though, you know. Apparently my friend who helped me on my journey of embracing Islam, he would say things to me like, well, you used to say you would never be Muslim.
Right.
I don't remember it, but apparently I did say it.
Yeah.
I said, nah, I'll never be Muslim. Like, I'm a proud African Christian, you know. My parents didn't fail me. I know sometimes that's the perception, you know. My dad sometimes feels like, man, you had Holy Communion and you're Muslim now. Although he's very, very happy with me being Muslim, but that sometimes comes out, you know, and he says stuff like that. He's even himself made remarks about him possibly becoming Muslim because he's seen the change in me. The positive change in me. But so I don't feel like my parents failed me. My parents were always very adamant about education, and it was not just education, even religious education. They would put a lot of emphasis for me to learn, you know.
Because would they do the teaching themselves, or was it they?
Someone else.
That's the other thing as well.
Yeah, they were working all the time.
All right.
But they made sure that, you know, every Saturday I would have Bible studies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that I suppose you could say was helped me a bit is that because my dad, he was deep into the Bible.
Yeah.
And he used to like talking a lot about it.
Yeah.
And I was like a sounding bag for him. So obviously a lot of what he said
Yeah.
came into me.
Yeah. My mum was more religious than my dad, I would say.
Right.
My dad believes in God. He understands the importance of it. My mum was more actively pursuing it. And I mean, my dad has to work. And put the food on the table. You know? That's all he was concerned about, really. And us having a good time. I admire my dad for that.
Right.
A lot of the things that he does, I haven't been able to do. So he's a great man.
Because it's an interesting question. If in the Catholic Church, you were taught a lot about Islam in the first place and the beliefs, and say the church, I know it happens a lot here, but say the church was pushing the negatives a lot and they actually taught you about it, do you think that would have had a big effect? I'm saying as a child, not now, but
Honestly, I don't think so, because remember, I wasn't convinced about, it didn't spark my interest as Islam because of the things they were saying to me. Because they were just doing the exact same things. We go play football, we go to we go to swimming, we'd go, you know, climb on trees and take apples from the neighbors when we're not supposed to. You know, we did all those things together. But like, there was a distinctive behavioral aspect when it came to like the religious aspect, you know, when there was like festive, you know, an Eid and things like that, you know. It was just so beautiful that there was like a whole system behind the things that they believed in.
Because that's interesting that you're saying that, because so your parents, you didn't know about all these festivals that the Catholics are supposed to have. Did the parents ever emphasize?
I knew about the basic ones like Christmas, Lent, stuff like that, and I knew about and these are things that we actually celebrated as well. And what's it called? Easter.
Right.
Yeah, Easter was my parents properly participated in that. They made sure that we had a good time.
Because actually in Lent, did you fast?
Nah, I was too young.
Oh, okay.
Do you fast as a young kid in Christianity?
Not as far as I know, but the interesting thing is there's a part in the Bible where Esther was going in to she's going in to do something dangerous.
Yeah.
And she actually she asked them to fast for her.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she said
I remember my mom used to fast.
Yeah.
She would fast at home.
Because if I remember, I'm sure she actually said the baby should fast as well.
Wow.
No, it was either her. No,
it's not dangerous.
Actually, I might be wrong. It might actually be Jonah.
Okay.
So I think it was Jonah was the one where.
Yeah. But yeah, that was sort of like the catalyst for me to. But I feel like the Jehovah Witnesses really just prepared me for Islam.
Right. You mean because of their
denial of their denial of trinity?
Yeah.
You know, no Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. Although, so they'll be there on Saturday and I'll still go to a Christmas party. So my parents didn't like fully accept the whole Jehovah Witness thing, because they were still very traditional African people who happened to be Catholics.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, so with because what country were your parents from?
DRC, Congo.
Congo. But that's the name now, isn't it?
Yeah, it was Zaire before.
Right, yeah.
Heavily Catholic country.
Okay.
You have evangelists and other people now as well, but
Yeah.
it's heavily Catholic, traditionally Catholic.
And I suppose this is from like hundreds of years.
Like more than 800 years.
Yeah.
Like Congo is amongst the first ever Christian country, Venicities, kingdoms, if you like.
Yeah.
We have direct, documentations of early the Vatican being in touch with, communicating with the kings
Okay.
of Congo. So
Yeah.
it's very deeply rooted. Like Congolese are deeply Christian people.
But of the Catholic faith, so that I presume they've got their bishop and the.
Yeah, you have that, but you also have. I mean, Congo is so big. You have so many different type of denominations of Christianity. You even have like a very localized Christianity as well.
Oh, okay, but this I presume happened. So what must have happened? Because before the 16th century, you only had Catholics.
Yeah.
So I suppose what you're saying is that when they had the Reformation, and they
I think around like the 1800s, 1900s.
Oh, yeah. So
more missionaries came along and
right.
stuff. Protestant and things like that, you know.
Yeah.
Methodist. My grandma is Methodist. I don't know if she always was, but like she's a Methodist now.
Right. So the one thing I want to, I suppose, see is that when you were a Catholic, would you say, did you ever have any thoughts about the other denominations, or do you just feel that the what you were doing with the Catholics, that's
It's actually funny because we had, and this just shows you like the universality that my parents were very tolerant.
Yeah.
Because you know, I'm going actually on the memory lane now because I'm remembering. We actually had friends who were Protestant.
Yeah.
Because remember, you're in Germany, so there's a lot of Protestant.
Yeah. Okay,
so,
that's true.
Yeah. So we had actually family friends who were Protestant.
Yeah.
And I remember going to their church, and it was all slightly different.
Yeah.
I've been to that church once or something like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they get married, they would invite us. But we weren't actively part of that community. We were very Catholic. Or like the other, or the African church that we go to.
Yeah.
And also I had a lot of music, food.
Because I was wondering, you said you go to that African one.
Yeah.
What do they?
On occasions, like.
Yeah, because that's what I'm kind of wondering. Is that those African churches, what is their basis? Do they have a specific denomination they're attached to, or does it seem like it's just some guy read the Bible and then came up?
Sometimes you would have some of the pastors who had like vocational training at like a Catholic convent or something like that.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you would just have what you describe a self-described sort of pastor that had some formal training somewhere and has a congregation.
Yeah.
But I don't actually, it's a good question. It's something that I have to maybe go back and find out what type of denomination they were. But I always classify them as, that's the African church.
Because the one thing about these, what you're saying about these African churches, do you tend to find that it's the case that they're more of the lots of singing and the preachers very animated?
Yeah, that's what it was.
But the important thing which would make you unhappy is that they don't have any deep teaching sessions.
I don't remember, like, one thing I also remember, unfortunately, about black churches and African churches is the whole gossip situation that was. There was a lot of like backbiting and fights, and this pastor has done this, and this woman all of a sudden is going out with this guy. Like I remember that stuff a lot as well.
You probably would believe it, but in the Caribbean churches, it sounds exactly the same as what you're saying. Yeah.
So you had a lot of that stuff. So that kind of put me off sometimes of these type of, like, that's why I had friends of mine who are also Congolese or Angolan, and they kind of grew up in that environment.
Yeah.
And I never did. My parents were very like adamant for me to be a very well-rounded. So I had loads of friends, white friends, German friends, Polish. A lot of Polish friends as well because of the Catholic connection.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my journey. So I was kind of prepared for Islam through the Jehovah Witnesses. Thanks to them.
Yeah.
May God guide them. Because I think they're very close. They're very close to my belief.
Well, you might be surprised if you dig deeper. There's some crazy stuff in there. If you
Yeah.
actually dig.
Okay.
under there.
Well, I never got to, and but yeah, then I became Muslim. I didn't even know why. Like, as in, it was like a subconscious thing.
Yeah.
And then when I start to realize, Salaam alaikum, uncle. Yeah. When I then start to learn about Islam, I was like, wow, this is crazy. Now remember, I'm like 17, 16.
Yeah.
I have now the mental capacity to think about things in a more abstract way.
Yeah.
It just made sense because there was nothing else there. You know, there was.
Because I was wondering, is it the dedication and seriousness? Was that the main thing
One of the things. Then I start to see the community aspect.
Oh, the way they spreads out into that the.
Yeah, they had a very communal. Turkish were very all together, and don't get me wrong, they have their own issues as well amongst themselves.
Yeah. But I suppose what it might be is the fact that their belief is like regulating them.
Yeah, it's all just. And there are difference of opinions, and that's something I've learned much later.
Yeah.
But initially, it was just like everything makes sense. All my questions that I have, conspiracy theories were very, very popular at my time as well. There was this very, very famous show on YouTube. It was called The Hereafter series. Legendary.
All right.
Everyone, like years down the line, my parents even watched it. It was so legendary. Everyone watched it.
Yeah.
And it had a very Islamic perspective to things. And it'll talk about a lot like the Illuminatis and Satan worship and all these things.
Yeah.
And Islam was just answering all those questions. It put context to everything around me, you know? So I was lucky that I had like a mentor who kind of embraced me. When he heard I became Muslim, he was kind of around me a lot. He was teaching me about Islam, and I was like, yo, this is amazing. I love this religion. Like, then I started to learn about the Prophet Muhammad. I was like, wow, a remarkable man. Incredible man.
But when you're saying about what you said about Muhammad, did you ever, when you were a Catholic, did you ever have that feeling about Jesus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to love Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still love Jesus, but yeah, I had love for Jesus.
But did you feel that the way that the church were portraying him wasn't like as good as what you're reading in the Bible? Did you ever?
I remember, for example, watching movies about Jesus, and I would cry. Him on a cross.
Oh right. Yeah.
It's very emotional. Remember, like I was 14, 15, so I had never engaged with the Bible on an intellectual level.
Right.
You know, like that. Even the book that we're teaching me, those Jehovah Witnesses, it was like a condensed version of like the stories in the Bible. They went into like wisdom as well. You know, Ruth. I was learning about Ruth. I was learning about Samson.
Yeah.
All these Jezebels, it's important things. You know, parables. And the book basically is chronologically, so it starts at Genesis with Adam. I remember to this day, I remember these images vividly. You know. It's this image of Adam and Eve. They're white.
Yeah, always.
And then there's the image of like an angel guarding paradise because they had to be banned.
Yeah.
And there's like Adam, brunette. Do you say brunette in male? Brown haired.
What just brown? I mean, brunette's only for women.
Well, yeah. Well, Eve was brunette.
Yeah.
And she had tears in her eyes and had to be banned. Yeah. So it starts there. And then it finishes with Jesus' ministry after he's been crucified.
Yeah.
It's lovely. It was good. It's good, man. It's good for me. I needed that.
So they were giving their commentary on the story.
Yeah. So they would sort of talk about the stories. Saul, you know, Solomon, David, Goliath. And they would try. The book tries to do is it was deriving lessons from these people.
Oh, okay,
yeah. It tells you the story, and then the lesson.
Right, yeah. Because actually, funny enough, that reminds me of. I was listening to that was it. Yeah, I was listening to a church preacher yesterday. He was giving his sermon, and that's literally what he was doing.
Yeah.
What he was trying to do is he was reading the story, and every section that he came to where it says like something happened against them, and then what he would then say is, and this is the enemy coming against you in your life.
Yeah.
These things can be. So he's matching the thing in the story.
Yeah.
With what's happening in their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the story of Joseph, beautiful story. Jacob, I've learned about patience. I learned about family and jealousy, all these things.
Yeah, true.
It was integral. So when I then became Muslim, I'm starting to realize, whoa, there's more to this, you know. And then I was kind of socialized, intellectualized, groomed, and not groomed in its negative sense, groomed as in cultivated into becoming a Muslim for a very long time. So I was Muslim very young. So I've been Muslim for a very long time, you know.
Oh, but so when you said, was it 14 was when you
first time I intellectualized Islam.
Yeah.
2 years later I took my shahada, became Muslim.
Right.
So by the time I was 16, I'm in my 30s now.
Yeah.
So by the time I was 16, I embraced Islam.
So between the 14 and 16, did you go into the mosque at any time?
No, not once. But what happened is that I'm now starting to become my own person almost.
Right.
Still very young, but I'm not forming opinions on things, you know. Things that are a bit more outside of like just football, because I used to play a lot of football.
Yeah.
I was actually very good as well. Football, and it's so weird. Everything. So whenever these milestones were happening in my life, I would always have it. So 14 was also the first time I drank alcohol. You know, it's just that's the dichotomy that I existed in. You know, you as a teenager in Germany, you'd be going to parties, house parties, and there's absolutely no religion, but you'd be there with your Muslim friend.
Oh, so the Muslim guy would be there?
Yeah, there would be people who are Muslim.
Right.
But then I'll be drinking, and I look at them, why are you not drinking?
Oh, right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even though some of them eventually did end up drinking.
Yeah.
But at that time, they were very like, nah, I can't, it's haram, I can't do that. I was like, wow.
So they still ended up like this party. This was something organized just by
house parties usually. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Because I was young.
So the Muslims would still go, but they would just abstain in the party.
From all the other madness that we were involved in.
Yeah.
So there was like a distinctive thing about the Muslims that I knew about, and I was like, yo, I like the discipline these guys have. You know, it's admirable when you see it. Some people might not find this admirable. Some people might find this very prudish, depending on who you are with. To me, it was admirable or admirable. And then, when I became Muslim, it was like as if I had stumbled upon like this treasure that's been waiting for me my whole life. It all made sense. Islam made sense. The Prophet was the Prophet. And then I started to learn about his life. The humanized version of him. Up to this time, I hadn't even thought about Christianity, about Trinity, or anything like that.
Yeah. So what I'm wondering then is that when at this point where you 17, you took your shahada at 16.
16, yeah.
So say at 17 when you were now into it.
Yeah.
Was it a case of that because what you were doing as a Christian before, I suppose because you were young as well.
Yeah.
That it had such a little impression on you that it's like the impression of Islam just overwhelmed it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never. So when I became Muslim, I never felt like I had left Christianity because it's as if the day I became Muslim, it erased all my sensibilities, at least my conscious ones. Subconsciously, there were 100% things that were perhaps Christian-like within me.
Right. Yeah.
But the moment I became Muslim, I didn't think about, oh, look at these stupid Christians, what they believe. Because, it was never hostile because my parents were very accommodating.
Yeah.
So I never had to do that, the rebellious teenager.
Or even like how some of the, like Usman, the way he talks to some of the Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have to have someone like Usman come and like...
Nothing. It was just like pure, like very naturalistic. My parents were shocked, but they didn't disown me. They didn't kick me out of the house.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes they tell me, like, you're Muslim, why are you doing this? They would remind me, I stopped eating pork. My mum wasn't cooking pork anymore. She doesn't eat pork to this day. Very accommodating. So there was no need for me to take on the rebellious teenager.
Yeah.
So my interaction with Islam was totally different. It was healthy, So I had no aversion to Christianity because of that. I had just no opinion. And that happens only recently. The last 5 years, maybe 7 years.
But would you say that's more to do with people you've met?
Yeah. And not that I had an aversion with Christianity, my learning about Christianity, and in fact, I've said this many times, my appreciation for Christianity has increased the more I've learned about it whilst being Muslim.
Right, yeah.
So I've actually tried to be as non-biased as possible. It started off with the intensive study of like European culture, and then it led me to Christianity, naturally.
Yeah.
And I start to realize, this was from God.
But actually, I just wanted to say one thing.
Oh, this is from God, yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say that, you're saying about the European culture, the end, I don't know, the end, it's hard to say, because what happened in Europe, there was like a split.
Yeah.
So you had the
schisms.
The Protestants on one side, who had their beliefs, and the Catholics on the other side. So,
and then you had the Orthodox later on, the Eastern Church.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, they came before Reformation, because that was in the 10th century, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But they weren't really coming, so I think they just stayed where they were.
Yeah, they still existed, though.
Yeah. And so when you said you were looking into the Christian faith, is it more the Protestant stuff that you were...
I was looking at everything, literally everything. I was looking at Calvin.
All right.
Yeah, I was trying to understand Calvin. I was trying to understand Martin.
Don't try too hard to understand.
Yeah, I was looking into Catholicism a lot.
Yeah.
From the philosophical aspect of Catholicism. So the Thomists.
Yeah, Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah. Occam. William Occam.
Okay. No.
I looked at scholasticism. So this was like the intellectual history of the Catholic Church and Christianity. I looked at the mystics, the German mystics, Hildegard from Bingen and people like that. Who's the other guy? Very, very famous one. German as well, I think.
Well, not mine.
Meister Eckhart.
Oh, right.
Meister Eckhart. I looked at Meister Eckhart's teacher. I looked at Paris as an intellectual, and then I also started looking into like the African traditional churches in Egypt, and more so in Egypt. I didn't really look into Ethiopia, and then I obviously eventually started looking into like Christianity in its origin, So like Hellenistic Christianity and the Israelites, the early church, and it was beautiful. I was very intrigued. I was very taken by the mystics in particular.
Because what I'm wondering is, when you looked into what was happening in Africa, this is one thing I've never been able to like find or hear anyone get information about, is in Africa, did they ever have any documentation on paper that they preserved?
Well, the Christians.
Well, anyone. Like even say maybe the other religious groups.
In terms of what?
Well, like any old scrolls or...
Yeah, I mean, the Ethiopians have like very ancient books
of
like the Bible. One of the oldest Bibles are found in Ethiopia. There's other ways of preserving information, oral tradition.
Stone is one of the...
Yeah, oral tradition. Very, very... Oral tradition has been very reliable for a very long time as well. It's worked. It's served its purpose.
Right.
But yeah, so my and then when I start to read the scripture itself, and I'd love to do more, but I've done like the Gospel of John. I was amazed by it. I was amazed by this depiction of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Great man. I was like, this is a great individual, a great soul. He's Logos,
But that's what's interesting is the way that what you felt about him when you read in the Bible. Did you ever get that feeling from the Catholics as they were like talking about anything about the Bible?
One thing, because remember, I was very young, so I don't really remember too much. Because for me, it was just sitting on the hard bench in a cold mausoleum, not mausoleum, but like a cold freaking, not freaking, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I was in a church and I was very uncomfortable. It's early and it was super long. I was like, why are we here for like 3 hours? Like, what the hell? So it was never pleasant for me. It only was cool when there was like special occasions, when there was like a, what do you call it when you put a baby into the water?
Christening.
A baptism.
Yeah, well, christening, I think they.
Yeah, christening. Yeah.
When they put the...
that was like a highlight maybe, or when there was Christmas or whatever. And then when I was allowed to eat the bread and stuff, that's when I got kind of excited because I was like, oh, I'm part of the, that was cool. That was, and the individuals, there was beautiful people there, very caring people, very. Yeah, I have fond memories of that era of my life, and I'm privileged to have to be saying that I can say that at once I was a Christian, and then God took me through that, for whatever reason, and now I'm a Muslim, and my appreciation for Islam is great because of that, because I can literally compare. I can say, hey, I was a Christian at one point, and I'm happy. There's no disrespect towards Christianity, that I'm where I'm now, because it gives me a better understanding of I have some biases, of course, but a good understanding of what Christianity is about. And I think it's Salaam alaikum. It's among a great religion, and unfortunately, I find there are certain interpretive errors that I don't know.
You say interpretive errors?
Yeah.
But you're saying about the people themselves, or Christians?
Yeah, the Christians, the way the understanding of Jesus. As great as he was a human being, and this is not to undermine him. This is not to say that he's less because of it. But I think it's not that he's less. It's an exaggeration, because we have to be very careful to who we call God.
Right.
We have to be very careful.
Because it's interesting about that particular subject is that I haven't really had much of an opportunity to discuss that with anyone, because what I see has happened. You were saying about, you read about those philosophers in Germany especially, and one of the things that, and the Greeks as well, because they got the philosophy from the Greeks, is that
the Muslims and the Greeks, when
you hear Christians keep saying Jesus is God, that's just a term they use, because when you look in the Bible, when it comes to the apostles, they will always use the term Son of God. And there's a reason why they use that term, because Jesus himself uses the same term as well.
I have no problems with Son of God. I have problems with God the Son. That's my problem.
So when let's just, if we stick with the Bible, where it says where Jesus says he's Son of God and the apostles say Son of God. What do you think that means?
I mean, obviously, with time, I learned about this stuff, and apparently, Son of God doesn't mean actually literally the Son of God. It just means like a servant or someone who's very close or nearby to God. That's what the title is. David is also described as the Son of God.
Right. So do you feel that that's what the apostles are saying? When
Yeah, I think it's something that the Jewish. Remember, we're dealing here with Israelites. We're dealing here with people of the book. We're dealing with people who are descendants of Jacob.
Yeah.
And I'm all to understand the way they use it, that term in particular. And that term didn't mean that God had children. We are all children of God, meaning we are all in the care of God. Yes, that's why we're the children of God, in that sense. However, it can be very confusing. So, in the Quran, God says, I don't have children, nor am I begotten, because there are people who confuse these terms and make them literal. For example, the Meccans, the people who opposed the Prophet early on, they used to say that God has daughters.
Oh yeah, that's
right?
Yeah.
They would say the angels are daughters of God. And the context here is very important because they used to, as tribes are and Bedouins are, power and might was with having many sons.
Yeah.
So they would attribute sons to themselves and attribute daughters to the Almighty. That's where the problem really lies,
Yeah. Because what I was going to do, I was going to read you this. This is from Proverbs. This is from the book of Proverbs.
Yeah.
So it's Proverbs 31-4. It says, the words of Agar, the son of Jakeh, even the prophecy, the man spake unto Ithiel, and even unto Ithiel and Ukal, surely I am more brutish than any man, and have not the understanding of a man. I neither have learned wisdom, nor have the knowledge of the holy.
Yeah.
Who hath ascended up into heaven, or descended? Who hath gathered the wind in his fist? Who hath bound the waters in a garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth?
Yeah.
What is his name, and what is his son's name, if thou canst tell?
Yeah.
So when I'm like reading that,
Yeah.
what kind of son does that sound like he's describing?
I wouldn't know really, because it was a bit difficult for me to understand, but
Well, it's just, I mean, when I got to verse 4, it says, who hath ascended up into heaven or descended? So,
are you saying, he's talking about Jesus?
Well, it says, it's saying that this is someone who's ascending up into heaven or descended, who hath gathered the wind in his fists, and who hath bound the waters in a garment.
Okay.
And here's the interesting thing, who hath established all the ends of the earth?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about this bound the waters in a garment is, I don't know if you know, if you've ever read the book of Kings, there was a point where Elijah was about to leave, and Elisha was following him. And so what Elijah did is he had to cross the River Jordan.
Yeah.
So he actually got his mantle and he struck the water, and the water parted. So it's as if that, being able to control the water, obviously a man can't do that. So the fact Elijah could do that means it's from God. God's given him the power to do it.
Yeah.
So this prophecy, when it's talking about who's done this, and it says what's his son's name, would you say, does it sound like a human son or?
With that, I have to look into it myself.
Yeah.
To really give you a good understanding. On face value, I don't really know.
Right.
And I don't fully understand.
Yeah, because what I'm trying to say is that when you read in the Bible, and this is like what I get, is that it's trying to give you an impression, and this is like the one main reference.
Let me write it down. I will go and read about it.
Yeah.
So this was in
Proverbs 30.
Proverbs.
Yeah.
Proverbs 13.
30. And it's just verse 1 to 4.
Yeah, I'll read it. Yeah, I'll read it.
Yeah, because this is the thing. Because I've said this to other Muslims as well. Is
Yeah.
that I know that this is like a big sticking point. In that the way I see it is that what the Christians have done. This is Protestant and Catholic.
Yeah.
Is that they've taken advantage of what. Well, let's see. Yeah, they're taking advantage of Jesus effectively, and put their own thing on him. Because the way I see it is that when in the Bible, when it says Jesus is Son of God, that's what I believe.
Yeah.
So that's how So whenever a Christian asks me, is Jesus God? I say, no, he's Son of God. I always tell them that.
How do you define Son of God? What does that mean? Son of God?
That's the thing. So if we go,
because how would you say it in Aramaic or Hebrew? Son of God. How do you say it?
well, it's just.
I doubt you'd say Beni Ilah. I don't think you would say that. I think it has a different term.
Well, they don't have it. It's not in the Old Testament.
Because Ben means son of.
Yeah.
I don't think they would say Beni Elohim or something like that. I think it has its own separate term because it doesn't actually mean son per se. It means like servant of God or the one who's near to God.
Well, this one's Ben, the son used here.
Can I see?
Yeah.
Where?
No, so you see verse 4, it says, see son is 1121.
Yeah.
And see there, it says, it's Bani.
Bani.
Or Ben in Hebrew.
Ben. Yeah, but it doesn't, Ben just means son. A son. So look, it says Ben, a son. A builder of a family, a name in the widest sense, literal, figurative relationship, including grandson, subject. Right? It just gives you what Ben means.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean a physical relative. When you look at the definition.
Yeah, that's what it means. But it doesn't say son of God.
Oh no, you wouldn't get that in that particular, not in Hebrew.
Yeah.
Because the only time that's ever mentioned is in Daniel, but that's actually in Chaldean, it's not Hebrew.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have to read it for myself. But one thing I'll say, and maybe to conclude this, because we've been here for a little while.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were trying to kind of analyze, as a former Christian, what to avoid by looking at my life. I don't know if that's what the intent of the video is. I don't know. I'm assuming. I don't think.
No. It's like the intent is to see how the church. What the church could do better for people who are growing up in it.
Yeah.
That's essentially the main
But
thing.
I think it's that could be a case study for sure. But I would say that the church is there, of course, to be the foundation of the community. But ultimately, every human being is going to have their journey and journey towards God. And if that journey towards God means that there's an improvement in a human's life and that human being becomes a contributor to society and that human being yearns and strives to know God and God alone, I don't see any issues with that. I have children myself. I will educate them and I hope for them to be Muslims and I hope they die as Muslims when they meet their Lord. But I understand that they will be on a journey.
Yeah, because I have to admit that with me, the way I see it as well is that when I look in the Bible, it's our job as Christians anyway is to get the message out to people and make sure that and as far as we're concerned, God is the one who does the changing of the person.
Yeah.
But what we're supposed to do is that we're supposed to behave in a way and have knowledge in a way so that if God then does something to them in their life, they know who to come to. So rather than us being all like mean and whatever, and then God tries to do a change, but the person now does have no one to communicate. So I'm not really doing this to try and say,
I was just joking.
You have to become a Christian, you must do it now.
But I think if one thing, the lesson that I took personally from even recalling all of these memories is that it's been a transformative journey, and I believe, I don't know if you're going to leave this behind in the video, but I do believe that Islam seems to be continuation of Christianity. It's not, there's almost no break in that. You're not abandoning anything. It's almost you're continuing the journey, you know. And you asked me about Jesus. In hindsight, I don't think I've abandoned Jesus. That's all. I don't think I have. I still have love for him. I have love for Mary. I am protective of Mary, the mother of Jesus. She is.
But it's interesting you said about continuation, because that's how the Catholics are.
No, I'm saying because of the claim against her.
Oh, what you mean about the? Oh, yeah, because in the Quran she's not married, is it?
Yeah, and even in the Bible, she is she not being accused at one point?
No, only the husband knew. So he's the only one that knew.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Slightly different.
Because even though the Pharisees, some Jews said it later on.
Yeah.
I think that's just a rumor.
Oh, yeah.
But at the actual time, only Joseph knew.
Because I know that there are certain narrations from the Jews that accuse her of being...
Yeah, that would have been later on, because I think
Later on, as in like later post-Jesus?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I'm in defense of those heinous
Right.
accusations.
Yeah.
And I love Jesus, and I hope that there will come a day where I will be with Jesus in the kingdom to come. I hope that, as a Muslim, I hope that. And as for the differences that we have about Jesus, or the nature of Jesus, that will be decided on the day of judgment.
But anyway, the way I see it is that if you keep on seeking, if you ever get anything to the contrary, and it seems, and it's not from a man, but it seems like it's more from somewhere else, all I'd advise you is don't reject it.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I'm very open. I'm very open, and I ask God continuously to guide me and to keep me on the straight path, because I'm not guaranteed. I could be a Satanist tomorrow, for all we know, right? So,
but admittedly, that's one thing. I suppose I'm doing a bit of the advertising for the Bible, is that what Jesus promised is that people would have a comforter.
yeah,
That's the Holy Spirit.
yeah.
So that actually, the job of the comforter is to keep people all the way to the end. So that is one thing that...
Yeah. And, you know, if I follow the path of Abraham and Jacob, I believe that with the mercy of God, I will enter paradise.
Okay.
And I hope the same for you.
Yeah,
Because
the main thing is staying on the path, because that's the only way you're actually going to have a chance
absolutely.
getting the truth anyway.
And maybe reconsider as well. I mean, do you believe Jesus was God?
No, I already gave you the answer. Remember,
You don't?
Son of God. Because that's what I was trying to explain, that as son, what I believe is that he came out of the Father.
Yeah.
That's what I believe son means.
But he's not God then.
No, so when he's the Son of God, but because he came, see, the way that they don't, in the Bible, it doesn't tell us how angels are created.
Yeah.
So some people speculate, but I don't, because if it's not written, I don't speculate. But it explains how Adam came about, that God breathed into him. But then Jesus also says in, I think it's John 5, I can't remember which one, that he proceeded from God.
Yeah.
So he actually says that.
Yeah, but
So,
is he? But you wouldn't then say he's God. You wouldn't.
no, but you see, the fact he proceeds from God, what I'm trying to say is that he's not human and he's not an angel, because he wasn't created like how angels were created.
Yeah.
And he wasn't created like a human either.
Well, partially he was, no?
No, that's only when he was born from Mary.
Yeah.
I'm talking about before Mary.
Yeah.
See, because in my belief, there's parts in the Bible that I believe describe the Son of God. His name wasn't Jesus at that time, but before he was born through Mary.
Yeah.
And there's also times where in John where Jesus actually says that he came down from heaven,
Yeah.
and that he does what the Father does, he does.
But where do souls come from?
Yeah, but you see, that in the Bible it doesn't tell us. So anything that we would say is speculation. We're not given a definite.
Well, we come from God and we return to God, no?
Yeah, but Jesus says that the Father was the one who taught him.
Okay, very simple question. Maybe the question is too simplistic. Because I appreciate that you're trying to give me a more nuanced answer.
Yeah.
So you don't believe Jesus is God?
Not in terms of, because you see, what Trinitarians believe is that you have one God,
Yeah.
and he's a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't believe it.
Okay, fair enough.
So I believe he came out of the Father and he's separate. So he's a separate
Okay,
individual.
interesting.
It's not the same.
What sect are you part of?
No, just get that from the Bible.
Okay.
There's no name for
Yeah, okay. Well, I appreciate talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm getting a bit tired, but I appreciate talking to you. Thank you very much.
All right, yeah, thanks for you. All right. Okay, so I had a nice chat there with Dawud, and so I know some people might say that, why are you talking to Muslims and being nice to them? But as far as I'm concerned, people in this world are there to be talked to and to be nice to, because Jesus said that we should show love to people. So regardless of whether someone is a Muslim or even an atheist or whatever, our job is to be nice to them, because God could come and communicate with them, give them the truth, and then it's our job then to actually be the one to help them along in the journey.
Israelites will return to take down